Well, he's filled with ideas
to share with you.
Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Alrighty, Doc, here we go. You want to start with Albany? You want to start with Washington? Your pick.
I think we can start with Albany and Kathy Young's.
What's the latest there?
Well, the latest on that is, and I just picked this up late yesterday afternoon from one of her staff people. Her office will remain open. Her staff people will remain in place. They're prepared to take phone calls and help people in whatever way is necessary. So that's good news for the people in her district. And so if they got a problem or an issue, just proceed as they normally would.
Constituent services continue, even though the senator is leaving. By the way, Assemblyman Palmisano was on the Thursday morning show.
Yes.
And Palmisano said that it's right now the two names that are coming up are Andy Goodell, as you said, from Jamestown, the assemblyman there, but also Assemblyman Joe Giglio, who I wasn't sure was interested.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure he's interested either.
Palmisano says that name's being bandied about, though.
Well, they can bandy it about. The only thing I have heard is that the Democrats are ready to pour about $1 million into the race. Now, again, are they or are they not? Is that just an attempt to scare people off? Who knows? I'm sure they'd like to have that seat, just get as many Democrat seats as they can in the state Senate. But we'll just have to see how this plays out. I have some thoughts about how to approach that, but if it's a primary with 4 or 5 people, it's just very hard to see who's going to emerge as a Republican nominee.
By the way, have you talked with her being Senator Young, since this news broke?
No, I have not. I really should, frankly, but I'm sure she's getting a lot of calls.
Sure thing.
So we'll get in touch with her along the line.
Yeah, I'm sorry to see her disappear from the news that I'll be covering there, because always an interesting news story coming out of Senator Young's office.
Tremendous.
And a very nice person, I thought.
Yes.
Dr. Bob, something before we move on to Washington, another Albany issue. Assemblyman Phil Palmisano has been hitting hard on this idea that the Democrats are pushing all these out-of-touch topics.
Right.
Trying to get legalizing marijuana, free college education for illegals,
abortion,
heroin injection centers, abortion, and all that.
Gun control.
And Palmisano says, the Republicans are just pushing, the common sense boilerplate stuff, fix the roads, funding to get rid of potholes, and, tax cuts and things like that.
Right.
Okay, so whose argument will win in New York State?
Well, I don't know about New York State, but certainly in the southern tier, Mr. Palmisano's position and the Republican positions, I think, are golden. I think any Democrat, for example, any Democrat who runs for Kathy Young's seat, I don't care how much money you pour into the race. You can pour $1 million, $2 million. All the Republican has to do is lay out the positions that the Democrats have taken. And, I just don't see how a Democrat can win on those positions. Now, you might get somebody who says, well, I really don't agree with that. I really don't. Hold it just a minute. You're a Democrat. You're adding to the Democrat majority in the state Senate. Does anybody want this sort of thing to continue? And I don't think in the southern tier you're going to find much support for those kinds of positions. That's for sure.
Okay, can we talk about young people?
Young people?
Young people voting. The word was out of one of my Albany sources that one of the ways that the Democrats won the state Senate was to get a lot of the college-age people who are more Democrat-oriented, excited and interested in voting in all the different districts.
Yeah, well, they are. They do provide bases, and I don't know. I guess I'm a little reluctant to say the Democrats have a huge majority among those people, but I haven't seen any polls. And again, obviously, you get into some of these, among some of the faculty on these colleges, they're heavily liberal, Democrat, socialist, whatever you want to call them. So it does provide a basis for, I think, Democrat candidates. I think there are ways of dealing with that, but I guess we haven't got quite to that point yet.
As far as the Republican Party goes in New York State.
Yeah, there are ways of. I mean, I don't think you want to throw young people into just one category. I think they're a lot more adaptable than what they're being given credit for. But I do see that in Oregon, someone is proposing lowering the voting age to 16. And I think in Baltimore, one of the Maryland cities, they were going to lower the voting age to 16 or 17.
Is that a good thing or bad thing?
That's bad. I just don't think kids at that age are...
Or just say to your...
I don't think at that age that they're mature enough to make this...
Okay, now we can move on to Washington.
Oh, we're moving on to Washington.
Okay, Democrats, and they're piling up all kinds of stacks of documents and one investigation after another. Must be a crowded place, some of these desks in the House. And your thoughts on all these, this whole list of endless House investigations on Trump?
You got me now?
All these people wanting to investigate.
I got you, yeah. So something that's happening here that's, I think, really quite interesting. I think this is really fascinating. My understanding is, and the rumor was that the Mueller report was supposed to come out today. I don't know, I haven't seen much more on that here lately, but it must be very close to coming out. Now, if the Mueller report comes out, the Trump administration and Justice Administration doesn't have to make that public. In fact, they probably won't make it public. So where does that leave the Democrats? Well, the Democrats have two possibilities. One in there that could basically absolve Trump of any kind of criminal activity, which I think increasingly there's indications that it will. And the Trump people must have a pretty good idea where Mueller is right now, because they've answered questions and subpoenas and all kinds of other things. So the point is here, what the Democrats are going to do, whether the Mueller report is made public or not, the Democrats are going to try to redo the whole thing in public. So they've got this huge list of witnesses that they're going to subpoena and call before committees, and I assume put them under oath, and just redo the whole thing. And if even if there's no criminal findings on the part of Mueller, who after all has spent 2 years and $25 million and has some reasonably capable attorneys working for him, you'd think that would be it. We've had the investigation, they checked with everybody, and this is what he's found. But the Democrats in the House are not going to let it stop at that. They're going to recall these people. They're going to have them testify in public. They're going to have them make all kinds of... and I don't know if they can insist that they divulge what they said to the special prosecutor. I'd be a little surprised if they could. But they can ask them questions that come very close to what the special prosecutor was asking, so that even though there's no criminal finding here, they can continually pound and pound and pound upon this wasn't right, this was immoral, this was questionable, this was a conflict of interest, again and again and again. And so what they're going to do is simply replay this whole Mueller investigation from their perspective in public. And the whole idea, Nadler, the guy in the House who's really pushing this, really does seem hell-bent on trying to get some sort of impeachment basis. And the idea is, from his perspective, at least what I've heard him say, is that he wants to build a public opinion that is so overwhelming that they can go ahead and impeach Trump, which is, frankly, a little crazy. But that's exactly what the Democrats are trying to do here. So for the next year or so, we're going to see this continual. And, of course, the press will pick up on this, any kind of misconduct of any sort, they're going to try to blow out of proportion. I'm thinking, though, the press may get a little tired of this after a while.
You know, that's
what they're trying to do.
There's a Trump video that's circulating, Dr. Bob. I don't know if Trump made it or if somebody else did. But it's being passed around on Facebook. Do you mind if I play like 10 seconds of it?
Corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those of power in Washington and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat.
Now, this video, Dr. Bob, goes on to say that the establishment powers working against them are all tied to and inspired by HRC, Hillary Clinton.
Well,
what do you think of that accusation?
What, that Hillary Clinton's behind all this?
This is tied to a lot of it.
Oh, she's tied to it. Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. But the idea that she's behind a lot of this, I think that's exaggerating tremendously her influence. And
how is she tied to it?
Well, she works with these people, the same financial groups, and the lobbyists within Washington as vice president, or not, when her husband was president, and she's Secretary of State. But also, you could look at this Clinton Foundation, which was set up, getting huge donations from multimillionaires and billionaires to do good things in Africa. And I assume they did some good things. I don't know where the Clinton Foundation is now, but their ties to these multi-million and multi-billionaire individuals are pretty clear in that respect. Again, that may be all fraying and weakening now, but no, clearly the Clintons enmeshed themselves, you might say embedded themselves in this whole network, and certainly with the media as well.
You know, one interesting point that Trump's quoted as making in this video, well, it's his sound bites of him talking, audio clips of Trump talking. Yes. One of the points he makes is very interesting, is that the media, the corporate media, is no different than a lobbyist group these days.
There's truth to that. Yeah. No, there's a lot of truth to what Trump says. It's just that he delivers it in a pretty abrasive fashion, and so you lose a little of the impact. But no, the media, reading the New York Times these days, it's like you're reading another edition of the National Enquirer. It's some of the columns and news reports are so slanted that you just kind of shake your head. And, I've been watching a little PBS off and on because I like to watch the British BBC. Those guys.
Isn't that interesting? The House of Commons, the arguments and the debates.
Yeah, well, that's not bad at all. Actually, I don't mind watching that. But that's on C-SPAN, most of that. But they are so liberal. The idea that you'd have a real conservative on PBS is it just doesn't happen. And you get the impression that they're really such a group of goody two-shoes there that they handling everything in an objective, altruistic fashion. That's garbage. Fact is, they're very clearly biased, and it's just kind of interesting to watch their efforts there. So that's just, the one media I watch a little bit, but I think you could find, and when you get a chance to accidentally turn on CNN, you get the same sort of thing. No, okay. It's incredible.
We're going to take a quick break, then we're going to come back and talk about all kinds of good things going on in other parts of the world.
Oh.
I'm not sure they're good, actually.
Ready to create your own income with your own home-based business where there's no such thing as getting laid off? If a billionaire entrepreneur spent 5 years and $20 million searching for the next big trend, Wouldn't you want to know what he found? If you're serious about making money from home without having to leave home, then write this down. www.goherenext.com. You decide your income. Get the facts now. GoHereNext.com.
Back with Dr. Bob.
I see. You're backing off on that, huh, Brian?
Well, I said, let's talk about the good things going on in the Middle East. I'm sure there are good things going on in the Middle East. For example, there was talk a couple of weeks ago in the news about a cure for cancer that Israeli doctors have announced out of some hospital in Israel, and they say it's great and better than chemo. That would be interesting to see if that's allowed in the U.S.
Well, I certainly hope so, and I certainly hope it is true. That really wasn't what I was thinking.
No, you wanted to talk about maybe Syria.
Talk about Syria a little bit and the caliphate, which seems to have, as Trump said, has pretty much simply disappeared. There may be a couple dozen fighters I left, I guess, in that one city, and I assume most of them will be killed. So there are none left. The one problem that they have, of course, is that the U.S. has captured, 1,000 or more, maybe a couple thousand of these people who have, I guess, surrendered. And the U.S. doesn't know what to do with them. I hope they don't send them to Guantanamo. I don't know what they'll do with them. And I guess they're trying to figure out right now what to do with them. What they really like to do is have them, the countries that they came from, take them back, like the Brits, the Turks, Pakistani. But these countries, they don't want them back in any way, shape, or form, and you can't blame them there. So I don't know what's going to happen to the people that they've captured. But I guess, frankly, that's kind of a minor problem once you get rid of their military effort, which I think we pretty much totally smashed. So that's a plus. And tied to that, of course, we get now a number of these women who have left their countries, joined ISIS, and now they want to come back. And that's kind of an interesting issue there, too. The one wants to come back to this country, and the one over in England wants to come back to England. And for some reason, neither we nor the English are eager to take them back. I suppose the one coming in this country could run down to the border there and get mixed up with some Hondurans or Guatemalans or whatever and slip through. I don't know.
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan now. We're negotiating with the Taliban, and apparently we're coming up with a proposal, because in Afghanistan now, that's NATO and us as well in Afghanistan. I don't know if NATO has too much to do with Syria, although there are certainly plenty of countries wandering around there. But I think part of the deal is we've got kind of a 5-year withdrawal plan there where we pull most of our troops out, and the European countries keep some people in there as trainers and advisors and that sort of thing. So the Taliban seem to be willing to go along with that. The question is whether President Trump will consider that sufficient. I'm not sure. But in any case, they do seem to be making some progress in quieting that situation down. And the whole idea is that somehow you would get a government that would have the Taliban and the current government working in some sort of coalition or equilibrium. But I don't know. The Taliban, they're not easy. They're not what you might call a adaptable, flexible bunch. But the whole key, as far as I'm concerned, is to get out of there, and I think Trump agrees with that. Now, the problem in Afghanistan is Al-Qaeda, which was Osama bin Laden and that bunch. And I think part of the deal is that the Taliban's not going to allow Al-Qaeda to continue to exist. So that's what we're really after there. It seems to be some movement there in terms of getting some sort of agreement.
Sure. Dr. Bob, I had a final question for you.
Oh, okay, yes.
Well, it was about Fox News. They popped up a couple times in the news this week. One, when the New Yorker magazine put out a piece saying that Fox was, and they kind of implied that Fox was all alone in this kind of thing. Fox said on the Stormy Daniels story before the election, they had it before the election. Fox denies it, but this girl, Jane Mayer at the New Yorker magazine, insists it's true.
So?
Yeah, well, the other and then I've seen articles since that list all these, and from places like the Daily Caller and Fox News, that list all these liberal media outlets that sat on huge stories.
Yeah, well, I don't. I guess I can't get too worked up about Trump's sex life before he became president.
Yeah.
I mean, why do I care?
Agreed. Another point, Dr. Bob, with Fox popping up in the news, Fox has been banned from future DNC debates.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I guess that's, I guess they can do that if they want.
But, when you look at all the people at Fox News, like Chris Wallace, who was friend.
The idea that somehow
Shepard Smith.
And you look at what Obama did to Romney there with that, what was her, Candy Crowley or whatever her name was, says, they were talking about the Benghazi situation and how it was treated, and Romney lays it out, and Obama says, oh, no, I never said that, I never used that. And Candace Crowley says, oh, I just happened to have your the notes from your press conference here and what you said. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a total torpedo job on Romney sitting there thinking, what's going on here? They talk about bias. Are you kidding me?
Well, then there's some of the Trump, CNN people giving the questions ahead of time to HRC.
Donna Brazile giving Clinton saying, well, this is the sort of things you're going to be. Yeah. No, I thought Fox's handling of the debates was, in fact, Trump was pretty unhappy with what's her name,
Megyn Kelly. Oh, then you got Shepard Smith spending the afternoon trashing Trump nonstop.
I don't know.
And Chris Wallace is not what you call.
He can be tough.
Yeah. So I don't understand.
Well, at any rate,
I understand, but I think it's the DNC, I think, made a mistake, and it'll be interesting to see what Trump does as a result with Fox.
Yeah.
Maybe banning everybody else and just having Fox. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I don't think we need to go down that road.
No, but it'll be interesting to see what sort of move he makes.
Well, yeah. Well,
he being him. And you being Dr. Bob.
Yeah. Yes.
And we being pretty much out of time.
You think so? I got a couple other points I want to make, but I guess we'll just have to leave them till a later date, Brian.
All righty, Doc.
All right.